Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast. And today I'm going to do my review of Monday Night Raw. We kick off Raw with CM Punk. CM Punk comes up to the ring. He gets in the ring, grabs a microphone. Punk says that he has a lot of time left in wrestling. Punk says the only way to end the feud with Drew McIntyre is in Hell in a Cell, which will take place at Bad Blood. Punk then promises pure punishment on McIntyre. Punk says that it's pretty much all or nothing in Hell in the Cell. Couple of things I want to talk about with this, man. Number one, and I don't even know where to start with this, but again, you just bear with me for a second. CM Punk is, and I mentioned this when his time in AEW, man. CM Punk, and I'll be the first one to say, was the juice worth the squeeze bringing CM Punk back to AEW. Clearly that didn't happen, but obviously there was a lot of things going on that just did not just completely pertain to CM Punk. Obviously he was a part of the situation with the Young Bucks, but Young Bucks and Kenny Omega were also a part of that. What I will say is this. What Triple H has done with bringing in Phil Brooks, CM Punk, into WWE, number one, it shocked the world. I remember when he came into WWE, when he returned after being gone for about 10 years, no one thought that was ever going to happen. Since he's been back with WWE, man, he has been firing on all cylinders. Obviously, he's had some injuries and stuff like that, which I understand that. But this rivalry that he has with Drew McIntyre, by far, is one of the best things that's going on right now in Raw, hands down, besides the Judgment Day. And the segment that he had last night to open up Raw, man, you could tell that, his mission statement when he came into Raw or came into WWE was, he's here to collect money. He's not here to make friends. And he didn't think the rivalry between him and McIntyre was going to go this far as it did. To be honest with you, I think the build-up towards Hell in a Cell, man, at Bad Blood is going to be insane. I think the match is going to be insane. I think, the outcome of this match is going to be honestly telling, to be honest with you. Is Punk going to walk out of that match against Drew McIntyre as the winner, or Drew McIntyre going to decimate CM Punk once again and continue to mock everything that CM Punk has done up to this point? And to be honest with you, I mean, the build up towards, so far just with this match alone, towards Bad Blood and Hell in a Cell, definitely looking forward to that match. And again, man, like CM Punk had stated last night, he knows that he has a lot of time left in wrestling, but he's also not afraid to end it all, if you will, his entire career, and put his career on the line against Drew McIntyre in October at Bad Blood in Hell in a Cell. And I'm definitely looking forward to that matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our first official match of the night. It is Pete Dunne versus Sheamus. I thought it was a good match. It was a back-and-forth matchup between Pete Dunne and Sheamus, with Pete Dunne and Sheamus both exchanging in the middle of the ring. Sheamus was trying to keep the pace of the match. Pete Dunne hits a powerbomb for a near fall, as well as an enziguri. Dunne then hits Sheamus with a cricket bat, with the referee being distracted, which allowed Dunne to hit the finish on Sheamus. Pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Pete Dunne. Hats off to Pete Dunne for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Natalya versus Zoe Starks. I thought it was a decent match, man. It was a back-and-forth matchup between Natalya and Stark, with Starks keeping the pace of the match, but Natalya hits a roll-up on Starks, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Natalya. Hats off to Natalya for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have a Jey Uso segment. Jey gets down to the ring, grabs a microphone. He talks about Braun Breaker. He also talks about the Intercontinental title. After that, Breaker ends up showing up. Breaker mocks Jey Uso. Breaker then says Jey is nothing without his family, without the bloodline. Jey then mocks Braun Breaker, mentions something about the NFL, and Breaker not making it in the NFL. After that, Breaker quickly attacks Jey, but Jey hits a spear on Braun Breaker. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. Is for the World Tag Team titles. It is the New Day versus the Judgment Day. I thought it was a decent match. Back and forth matchup between the New Day and the Judgment Day, with the New Day keeping the pace of the match. Woods hits a powerbomb for a near fall. Judgment Day is here, as well as the LWO. LWO quickly attack Judgment Day. Woods hits an elbow drop. Tries to go for the pin, but the referee is distracted with Kofi Kingston on the outside, which allowed Finn Balor to hit the coup de grace off the top rope. Pins for the 3, and your winners of the match, and still World Tag Team Champions, are the Judgment Day. After the match, you can see that Xavier Woods was pissed off at Kofi Kingston. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Bronson Reed versus Braun Strowman. I thought this was a good match. Back and forth matchup between Reed and Strowman, with Strowman throwing Reed into the turnbuckle. top turnbuckle breaks. Reed then throws a fan at Braun Strowman. Strowman then tackles Reed through the barricade, takes out the barricade, match ends in a no contest. Reed and Strowman then fight to the backstage area. Reed then hits a tsunami through a table, and then Braun hits a tackle on Reed through a wall, taking them both out. Moving on from that, we have a Sami Zayn segment. Sami Zayn comes out to the ring. He talks about Gunther, says that Gunther is scared of him. After that, Kaiser comes out to the ring. Kaiser mocks Zayn. Zayn then says Gunther doesn't need Ludwig Kaiser. After that, Gunther ends up showing up. Ludwig then attacks Sami Zayn. Gunther tells Zayn once again that he will not receive his World Heavyweight title opportunity. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Io Sky versus Bianca Belair. I thought this was a great match, man. Back and forth matchup between Io and Bianca, with Io keeping the pace of the match. Io and Belair both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Belair hitting a handspring moonsault for a near fall, but Io hits a roll-up, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Io Sky. Hats off to Io Sky for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our main event of Monday Night Raw. It is Damian Priest versus Dominic Mysterio. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between Priest and Mysterio, with Priest keeping the pace of the match. Finn then attacks Priest. Rhea then attacks Liv Morgan. Priest then attacks the Judgment Day. Dominic hits a 619. Priest then hits a choke slam. Judgment Day then attack Priest and Rhea. Jey Uso is here. Braun then hits a spear on Jey Uso. Couple things I want to talk about, man, when it pertains to Monday Night Raw before I get out of here. I know this is not a long upload that some people were probably expecting, but there was a couple things I want to go over with Monday Night Raw, man. Number one, again, I don't want to sound like a broken record here when I say this, man, but again, when you watch Monday Night Raw, 9 times out of 10, you're going to see the Judgment Day. If you don't like the Judgment Day, then you're probably not going to like Raw. But as far as the main roster and what they've been doing, I think they're firing all cylinders, man. I mean, I know SmackDown did a hell of a job, had a great match. Roman Reigns finally returned to answer Solo Sikoa. And it looks like Cody Rhodes is going to team up with Roman Reigns possibly against Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa, I believe, which is going to be a really good matchup at Bad Blood in Atlanta, I believe October 5th, which is going to be a great, great card, man, from top to bottom so far. Monday Night Raw, though, man, did it disappoint? No. I think they're tying up loose ends and building up storyline leading up to Bad Blood, especially when it pertains to CM Punk. I think CM Punk last night was the vocal point of Monday Night Raw. I think what he said in that segment, I think how he made the fans feel, and, him pretty much telling the world that, he is willing to put his life and career on the line against Drew McIntyre in this Hell in a Cell match in Bad Blood. So I'm all for this matchup, man. I think personally, and I mentioned this earlier, man, that CM Punk and what he's done since he's been back with WWE has done a phenomenal job. Phenomenal job, and it was a great acquisition, if you will, with bringing in CM Punk back to the WWE after he's been gone for 10 years. And obviously didn't leave the company in great standings, but again, Triple H is just doing a fantastic job with what he's doing, kind of running the ship there in WWE. And obviously there's still fallout with the Judgment Day. Obviously Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest have a lot of unfinished business with the Judgment Day, which is going to lead into Bad Blood, which I'm definitely looking forward to that. I definitely think we're going to see Rhea and Liv at Bad Blood, as well as Damian Priest in some kind of aspect, probably against Finn Balor. And pretty much tying up loose ends there with the Judgment Day. So, I mean, again, was it a great Raw? No. There were some good moments. Braun Strowman, Bronson Reed. Again, it looks like we're getting the old Braun Strowman from back in the olden days coming back and doing a lot of crazy stuff like he used to, which, again, they've been doing a fantastic job between Reed and Strowman. But again, man, a lot of it has to come down to the Judgment Day and what CM Punk is doing with Drew McIntyre. To me, honestly, I think it's one of the best things going on Raw right now, and I think WWE does a hell of a job with the build-up leading towards another PLE, and they're doing a fantastic job with the build towards Bad Blood, which I'm definitely looking forward to next month. So, again, man, I mean, I don't want to be short and sweet with you guys as far as not having a long podcast, but, I mean, again, man, I'm not going to talk your ear off because I feel like at this point, it's becoming just a broken record with Monday Night Raw. Not in a bad way, just in a good way, in the aspects that Raw and SmackDown are firing on all cylinders, in my honest opinion. I'm not seeing any flaws with anything right now. But I will say this. The one flaw that I will say when it pertains to SmackDown and Monday Night Raw, and maybe y'all can agree with this or disagree, and I'm hoping that this changes when they go to Netflix, but, I think it was during the Bronson Reed and Strowman match, if I'm not mistaken, that, the fans were, cussing and stuff like that, and, somebody in the video truck was constantly, bleeping it out, bleeping it out, bleeping it out. It just cuts out the entire audio of the match. And I think it kind of kills the match and kind of takes away from the actual match of what the hell's going on. And I'm hoping that when they go to Netflix, they don't do that. I'm not sitting here saying that they need to go back to the Attitude Era. I'm not saying they need to do that. But what I'm saying to you is really how bad is a holy shit chant is what I'm saying. I mean, I think that aspect of the main roster right now, I think it's kind of crucial to what they're trying to do. I think they need to fix that. I think it's something that they need to address. I think it's something that needs to change moving forward. And hopefully when Monday Night Raw goes over to their new home in Netflix next year in January, hopefully there's not that much censorship as far as the language with some of the matches or some of the actions, if you will, that takes place on Monday Night Raw, because it just takes away from the match. It takes away from the action of what the hell's going on. And a lot of people are like, well, we see what's going on, but we can't hear, jack shit because someone's saying holy shit 15 times and, WWE television that keeps saying, well, we're not going to say this, we're going to bleep this out and bleep this out. It just takes away from the match. I think that's one of the biggest downfalls right now for Raw and SmackDown. But from me, honestly, y'all, man, I don't have any complaints right now. I'm not sitting here saying that WWE is the best product in the world and there's no flaws. No, there's flaws, but I also don't want to sound like a broken record to y'all, man. But I feel like I'm doing that for the past couple of weeks, not in a bad way, like I said, but just the Raw and SmackDown to me is firing on all cylinders, man. They continuously keep building towards storylines and revamping old storylines, especially with the Bloodline and stuff like that, and Roman returning, and the Judgment Day, and CM Punk. Now that, that rivalry's been going on for quite a while now, pretty much since CM Punk has been back, I feel like, in WWE. It's just great stuff, man. I think what Hunter's doing right now, or Paul Levesque, and what he's doing with WWE and the creative team that he has, and the creative that he has over these matches, he's doing a fantastic job, man. And again, my hat's off to Hunter, because I think it's one of those things that I wish AEW and Tony Khan actually kind of took notice of, because I think that's one of the things that's crippling AEW as a whole right now. And another thing too, not that it's related to Raw, but I also think NXT. NXT. I covered one of their events that they had a while back, a couple months ago. And I told you guys, like, it was hard to watch. I mainly watched that event because of Jordynne Grace and because TNA was involved with NXT. Now, they're currently still working with TNA, and I think the working relationship's been panning out really well for both TNA and NXT. But I also know that NXT is going to be doing live events here coming up relatively soon. I know they have one in Chicago, and they have one in St. Louis, where Randy Orton will obviously be on the St. Louis show. And obviously CM Punk will be a part of the debut episode, if you will, of the NXT show on the CW network, their new home. And honestly, I'm expecting a lot out of those shows. So, I might cover those shows. I don't know yet, but I'm expecting a lot. I'm expecting some new arrivals, some great matches, great moments. Obviously there's been a lot of speculation around the Motor City Machine Guns and where they're going to end up. The Lucha Bros. And to be honest with you, I think the way that, the ship is sailing at this point, that I'm pretty confident in saying that the Motor City Machine Guns, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, will be actually a part of the NXT roster. And they will probably debut on the debut episode of NXT on the CW network in Chicago. Even the Lucha Bros, man, Rey Fenix and Pentagon Jr. I think Phoenix is either injured or still has a lot of time on his contract, but if Penta decides to go over first, I can definitely see Penta being a part of NXT as well. And I know some people were giving Motor City Machine Guns a lot of flack about going over the NXT and not the main roster. To be honest with you, man, I think it's a win-win for the Motor City Machine Guns to be a part of the NXT roster, because they can learn the WWE engine and what it brings to the table, because it's a lot different. It's vastly different from what those guys were doing over in TNA or what they would have done in AEW. The WWE machine is a lot different, man. So I think them going over to NXT, even if it's for a year and a half, build up that NXT tag team division and really be a household name for NXT as far as the tag team division is concerned, I think it's a great thing. And eventually they will get, elevated to the main roster. But I people were complaining about the age of Shelley and Sabin. To be honest with you, man, yeah, maybe their mission statement at one point was not to have anybody in NXT over the age of 35. But I also think bringing in Sabin and Shelley they can also help the younger talent and vice versa when they're there in NXT. And I think it's only a win-win for not only the Motor City Machine Guns, but the roster of NXT in itself. There's a lot of younger talent on the roster, and Sabin and Shelley obviously have been around for a very long time. Majority of their time has been with TNA. So, I mean, obviously, they can help out the younger talent and put on fantastic matches for the fans and really help out the younger talent on NXT. So I'm all for it. I think anybody that's against that, I don't think you're a fan of wrestling, man, to be honest with you. And obviously, I have my strong, takes on NXT as well. I mean, I grew up watching NXT just like everybody else when it was the black and gold brand. And for what it's worth, I've said this since, it all ended, that we were spoiled, man, with NXT black and gold and what they brought to the table. You can say what you want, but we were absolutely spoiled, man, because that will never, ever happen again. With the amount of talent from both men and women that have walked through that door when NXT was NXT black and gold, and the matches and the takeovers, and having Mauro Ranallo hype these matches up and be a part of the video packages and stuff like that, really getting the fans in tune to these matches, that will never happen again. That will never happen again. not on a scale of what Hunter did with NXT. No. That was a independent wrestling takeover, and they brought the who's who and the best independent talent in the world into NXT and gave us a product that I could say, for at least myself, that I would never ever forget. Memorable matches, memorable moments, and history-making matches, history-making moments, career-defining moments, if you ask me. Because, to be honest with you, a lot of the wrestlers that are on the main roster, their career was not the same from when they went to NXT to the main roster. And I mean, that list is endless, man. You're talking about Gargano, Ciampa, Andrade, Malachi Black, or Aleister Black. Adam Cole's career was not the same when he went up to the main roster, obviously. Keith Lee. Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler was running roughshod on the women's division in NXT, and now she's, part of Pure Fusion Collective, and, hasn't really never really held women's singles gold since her time, I believe, since she's been on the main roster. And some people actually, it worked out for some people, obviously. You look at Bayley, you look at Sasha Banks, you look at Charlotte, Becky. It's worked out for some talent that's been with NXT, no doubt. But a lot of the talent that went from NXT up to the main roster, man, their career almost kind of plateaued, man, which is crazy. Because, I mean, the careers they had in NXT was just incredible. I mean, you look back at AJ Styles in an interview that AJ Styles, said, and he said verbatim, when he had signed on to WWE, he wishes that he at least had a year or two in NXT before he got called up to the main roster, because he wasn't ready. Now, is he a great talent? Absolutely, he's a phenomenal talent. But even AJ Styles, till this day, wishes that he went to NXT and their developmental before he went to the main roster. So you can't really dismiss NXT as not being an entity, if you will, for pro wrestling. It is, whether it's NXT Black and Gold or what NXT is now. I mean, and for what it's worth, what NXT is doing right now, man, and then them going to the CW network and having those 2 live shows, from what I know of, and having Punk and Orton a part of those shows, and possible, new arrivals coming into NXT, I'm all for it, man. Like I said, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I think what, WWE as a whole right now, meaning Raw, NXT, SmackDown, they're firing on all cylinders, man. They are the number 1 pro wrestling company in the world. And I would stay on that mountain by myself if I had to. But they are. I mean, if you look at the attendance records, the PLEs, arenas being sold out, the amount of revenue that they're making just from the PLEs, and them being a global brand and taking their PLEs all over the world. I mean, they just had Bash at Berlin, which was in Germany. They just had, I believe, Backlash not too long ago in France, as well as Puerto Rico. They're going to, I believe they were also in Australia for Elimination Chamber, or going to eliminate Australia for, no, they were just at Australia a couple months ago for Elimination Chamber. So they've been all over the world, man. And there's no other company right now that's doing that, even AEW. AEW is not a global brand. They're not. I know they're going to Australia next year, which is great. But for the past 2 years, the only global thing they've really done besides Canada, what I would have to say, is Wembley Stadium. Wembley's great. The fans in England are awesome. Even the fans in Canada are awesome. Absolutely awesome. But AEW's not a global brand. And credit to AEW. I mean, they've only been around for 5 years. But, I mean, at the same time, too, they're going up against a powerhouse with WWE that's been around for a long, long time. And and that's the other thing with AEW. I think it's bad enough to a point where they don't utilize the talent that they have. Man, it's not like they don't have the talent. But anyway, besides that, this is not AEW. This is Monday Night Raw. At the end of the day, long story short, man, Raw again firing on all cylinders. It was a really good show. But I genuinely believe that the main vocal point of last night's Monday Night Raw was what CM Punk said in that segment, talking about Bad Blood, Hell in a Cell, and talking about Drew McIntyre. And that was the highlight to me of Monday Night Raw last night. But with that being said, this is my review of Monday Night Raw. I hope you guys are out there staying safe, be careful, and remember, stay classic.